is seen by the size of this gathering. He touched so many lives, and you have come here today to remember him and to honor him. To start our service, our cantorial soloist, Joel Stein, is going to lead us in Esai Enai, which is found on page 9 in your books. Esai Enai, I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. It's a beautiful psalm, but if all we do is look upward, we're not feeling the comfort of those that surround us. We're not feeling the comfort of that hand that we hold, that squeezes back so tightly, reminding us that we're not alone in our mourning. If all we do is look upward, we don't find a shoulder upon which we can cry. And of course, if we only look upward, we don't sense the community that surrounds us. You see, God can be found in the heavens, but God is also found in the people that surround you and the actions they take to give you comfort, to give you love, to help heal you when you, are struck by sadness. So let us look to the heavens for support, but also let us realize that the Spirit of God lives in each one of us and becomes present on this earth through the actions we take. Let the heavens fill our souls and let us share this holiness with others so that we can bring comfort to those that mourn Wayne Shaw, so that we can bring comfort to one another as we remember a man whose presence is felt in this sanctuary. Wayne Shaw, he was so many things during his time on this earth. A son, a brother, a husband, a loving stepfather and grandfather. An enlistee in the Navy, a manager at Lockheed in the Skunk Works. And after he retired, a volunteer at One Generation. And he was a camper, an outdoorsman, a theater goer, a hiker, a biker, a world traveler. And he liked to throw parties, celebrating Jewish holidays and secular holidays, and Super Bowls and 4th of Julys. And that's because he liked gathering people he loved around him and having them enjoy life at the heightened level of joy that he found in each of his days. He had many friends, and he cared deeply for family. But more than anything else, his life focused on Phoebe, the love of his life, and the adventures they shared together. As Phoebe and I reflected over the past few months, as we talked, as we shared memories over a number of lunches and thoughts over a number of lunches, I heard about the depth of their love. And I was not surprised by that because they were members of the community. And if someone asked me who was truly in love, I would have said Phoebe and Wayne. They were so completely connected whenever I saw them. But over lunch, he told me about the first time, he came over for a date, about how his tattoos and truck parked out front was not exactly what she was expecting. Maybe not in alignment. But then she went out with him, and she found out that there was a truth, there was an alignment that she didn't think she would ever find. And they wore a match, and they did fall in love. And they were married, and they were nearly inseparable during their 33 years together. And together they traveled to the world. Together they cared for one another. Together they learned to depend on one another with complete trust. A trust they did not realize could exist in a relationship until they met one another. And they were inseparable. As Phoebe shared with me, we always held hands when walking. Actually, we held hands everywhere we went. And me personally, that's how I remember Wayne. I remember him by Phoebe's side, holding her hand, whether sitting at the pews in which you now sit or at a women's march, where I believe he was sporting a pink cap, if I'm correct. I think we were the two men nearby, both sporting those caps. Or online during a Zoom class, where he would just be off frame so often. And then Phoebe would move the camera a little bit, and I would see both of them. He was always next to her, but not just next to her. It was as if you could see and sense the bonds of love that connected them so completely, because these bonds were ever present. But there was one idea that seemed to come back repeatedly as I learned about him from Phoebe, as I remembered my past interactions with him. It was the idea of being present. He was a man who was always present for his family, for his friends, and so we are now filled with the knowledge that he was present for all of us. And now we are present for him. This afternoon we gather together so we're not left alone in our mourning. We come together, family, friends, relatives, community, and we begin to plant the seeds of memory watered by our tears of loss. And for the length of this memorial service, we are a community who has come together to share our pain, our love, and our stories. We've come together to honor Wayne Shaw and to remember how much he gave to so many of you, to so many people present today, and so many people who cannot even attend because of distance. Phoebe right now is wearing a black ribbon, and this ribbon is the act of ripping the ribbon is called kriya. It means to tear in Hebrew. And the idea is she's going to wear this ribbon for the next 30 days after this service. And wherever she goes, people will know that her heart is broken. It's an outward sign of how she feels internally. So if she is not as focused as she should be, if she is not responding the way people would expect her to normally respond, they look upon this ribbon and they say, this is a human being who is in emotional pain. And they give her comfort and kindness and a bit of love. So Phoebe, I'm going to ask you to rise. Baruch atah Adonai, Dayan Hametz, blessed are you Adonai, the judge of eternal truth. And you may be seated. It's our tradition at Kol Tikva to actually take a moment for Misha Berach prayer. And we say the Misha Berach not necessarily for the deceased, but for those who mourn. Specifically for the family, for Phoebe, Jackie, Scott, Flynn, Brody, Brad, and Jamie, and others who are related to him who I did not name. Because we know your hearts are broken like that ribbon, and we want you to have a bit of emotional healing. So we say a Misha Berach, a healing prayer for your hearts. A Misha Berach.
those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please turn to page 10 in your books. Let us read responsively. Adonai Ro'i, God is my shepherd, lo aksar, I shall not want. But right now, we do want. We want the laughter, smiles, and spirits of those who have gone before us, because our hearts are broken, because our lives will never be the same. The cycle of life and death makes no sense. Where is our shepherd? Where is God? Adonai Ro'i, God is my shepherd, lo echsar, I shall not want. But a shepherd cannot control life and death. A shepherd can only care for his flock as best he can. He can love them, attempt to protect them, but ultimately each life is lived by its own design. Adonai Ro'i, God is my shepherd, lo aksar, I shall not want. Our shepherd has not left us. God is found in the hand that you are holding. God is found in the shoulder upon which you are crying. God is found in the comfort we give to one another. God is found in memories. God is present not to shield us from pain, but to help us pass through it. God is my Ro'i. God is my shepherd. Adonai Ro'i, God is my shepherd. Lo echsar, I shall not want. We turn to page 11 for the 23rd Psalm. The 23rd Psalm speaks of a world where everything is perfect, where God anoints us and there is, abundance of food and of drink, and we are safe within God's arms. Let us read the translation to the 23rd Psalm together, found on the bottom of page 11. A Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd. I lack nothing. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me to water in places of repose. God renews my life. God guides me in right paths, as befits God's name. Though I walk through a valley of deepest darkness, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table for me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My drink is abundant. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai for many long years. Pain, grief, love, and mourning are a tapestry woven together by our hearts. We all feel the pain of loss. The greater our pain, the greater our love for the deceased. If there was no pain, what meaning would the life that is no longer present hold? Love and pain, the connection runs deep. And who would we be without grief? We are meant to love, to lose, to feel the pain of loss, to grieve. We are human beings who love. We are human beings who want to hold on to those we love for as long as we possibly can. And the love we feel lingers in our hearts. It lingers because it has nowhere to go. So we grieve knowing that the object of our love has departed this earth. But love does not end just because a life is no longer present. Love continues on. And so we mourn. We mourn that physical presence, that loss of physical presence. And our mourning is comprised of our tears, our laughter, our stories, our jokes, our prayers, and our memories. Mourning gives us the outlet to express our pain, our grief, and our love. As it states in Kohelet, to everything there is a season, a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die. The heart of every funeral and of every memorial service is a hesped, or in this case, a series of hespadim, of eulogies. And key friends and family members come forward, and they share their thoughts, on Wayne. And we're taught by an ancient Jewish text that we don't speak about the negative, we speak about the good, and we're allowed to elevate it just a little bit. So if the person couldn't cook, we don't call them Julia Childs, but if they could boil an egg, you could say they made a really good boiled egg. The goal today is to remember the positive, which I think is going to be easy with Wayne. The goal is to share our stories, either here if you're one of the speakers that we have on our list, or over snacks afterwards, over the gathering afterwards. It's to say, this is what Wayne meant to me. And that is the goal of remembering, of coming together. Our first speaker is going to be Phoebe, his wife. Make sure this is on for you, Phoebe. Give me 1 second. Okay, that should work. Let me just get a little bit closer to you before you
I
start.
look out and I thank you all for coming. I am so moved that you are here, and I appreciate it so very, very much. I'm going to try and get through this for Wayne, but those of you who know me understand that when I greet you for Thanksgiving or for Hanukkah, I can't even get through that without crying, so I'm going to try to do this today. First of all, I would like to thank the caregivers at the Jewish home, especially Herlinda and Maria for their loving care, and the many others whose names I may not know, but to whom I'm so grateful. I couldn't have made it all these years without the love of my family and friends and my Silverado spouses group. A special thank you to Scott and Brody, who never objected when Jackie dropped everything to fly here and hold my hand. Brad and Jamie, who called every day, and Flynn checking up on me. And to all of you who have been so loving and caring, with a special shout out to Gail and Barbara and Alan and Richard. As I've been thinking today about what I wanted to say about my Wayne, some things became clear. A little background first. Wayne was born in Massachusetts on January 16, 1940. He always stretched the boundaries of behavior just enough to get in trouble, but not quite jail. You've all heard the stories. At 17, he dropped out of school and joined the Navy. He served his 4 years and then an extra 3 months to make up for brig time. When he was discharged honorably, he stopped at his home for a few days to see his parents, whom he loved, and then headed off to Los Angeles. You've all heard his stories that he loved to tell and to tell and to tell. He then began a 35-year career at Lockheed Skunk Works, working his way up from the maintenance department to manager of the machine shop, where the manufacturing of all the secret planes was done. In 1986, we both did favors for others and were their +1 at the outpatient Pritikin program in Sherman Oaks. We never spoke during the 8-week program, and on the last day, Wayne's secretary came up to me and said, "My boss wants to ask you out." And I had a feeling her job depended upon that. She was the one for whom he had been the second, the +1, and did her a favor, as I had done for someone in my office. I didn't know how to say no and not hurt his feelings. When he came to pick me up, Jackie called me out of the room and said, "Mom, he has tattoos and he drives an El Camino. You can imagine how different this was from what my experience has been. And though we came from such disparate backgrounds, inside we weren't that different, and ended up beginning a 36-year love affair. We were married for 33 years and together for 36 years. Wayne stopped getting into his little skirmishes, although he did manage to bring elephant poop home from Africa. Lockheed and his fishing buddies, with whom he did his annual fishing trips to Cabo, remained important, with Rose Sladak manufacturing his orange bling to wear each year, as well as his weekly hikes with George for the 15 years that I continued working after he retired. His fishing trips, with very few exceptions, were the only time we were apart. We remained our individual selves, but we were as intertwined as a couple could be. I do still want my plaque that you've all heard about that says she was not married to a type B. On the other hand, neither am I. But we promised to never go to bed angry, and we pretty much kept that promise. Wayne's sense of humor never waned, and he embraced the experiences we shared and which I introduced him to. But in truth, they were really always in his soul. He was the last one out of every museum we visited. After he retired, his creative side emerged, starting with our mailbox man made from used auto parts, to the rocking horse he made when we found out Jackie was pregnant with Flynn. That began the open garage visits from all the neighbors and their dogs. You should know that one of the garbage collection men cried when they found out Wayne had Alzheimer's, and then when he passed away. And to this day, the green care driver stops to bring all my cans up, whether I have a green can out or not, telling me Wayne would have wanted him to do that for me. He delivered meals to the homebound, always bringing them extras, even a corned beef sandwich, which one of them craved, and had me bake pumpkin breads for each one at Thanksgiving. He made creative, beautiful furniture and was the chief decorator for all the parties at our home. Even with dementia, he managed to learn a new skill and made beautiful pottery. We loved our hiking and biking with his infinite patience for my slowness. Camping, the theater, traveling, both alone and with our wonderful friends, adventure and exploration, museums, galleries, parties in our home, his 50s and 60s music, our times in Big Sur, and most of all, time with family and friends. Our time together alone in the house in Big Sur was our most favorite time and place. He never stopped telling his stories and having his sense of humor, and we never stopped loving being together. Many things I was able to do because Wayne was always there to help me on a narrow trail or a claustrophobic place. I couldn't have done any of it without him. Wayne was a friend who would do anything for you. I think many of you know that. A stepfather and a grandfather who loved his family without limitation. He had his old-fashioned side. He actually asked my mother for my hand without telling me in marriage. She, of course, said, "What have you been waiting for?" And went to see the rabbi to ask about conversion, which he wanted to do without telling me. I always knew he would protect me and that our love had no boundaries. I hope we can all remember the real Wayne before the awful disease of Alzheimer's. We had an incredibly wonderful life. And that's what I hope to focus on. I will love and miss him forever.
Our next speaker will be his stepdaughter, Jackie.
I don't actually believe my mom just did that without crying through the whole thing. I'm impressed. So I don't think I'll be that good at it, but bear with me. Over the last few weeks, I tried to figure out what I'd say today, how I would convey the significance of the loss of Wayne to my mom, to me, to Scott, and the kids, my brother Brad, and sister-in-law Jamie, and to all of you. His friends near and far who he loved and who loved him so dearly. I thought about how I could possibly explain how important he was to us all and how much he was loved, who he was, and how he touched us all, impacted our lives. I realized there's no real way to encapsulate all those emotions and thoughts in a few minutes speech, but also that there's no need. You all knew him, you loved him, he loved you. Wayne was special and a character. He told the best stories, tales from his childhood adventures, wild days in the Navy, pranks at Lockheed, cars filled with popcorn, retaliation, and similar fun. He made friends with everyone, true friendships. Plus, every person who ever walked by his house and their dogs, who he kept treats for in the garage. The guys who picked up the trash, for whom he kept a supply of Gatorade and cookies, which he also gave to the landscapers. All the people he delivered meals to for years, brightening their days with extra treats and a special visit. He fixed everything for everyone. We personally had a running list for him, and I'm pretty sure Thea did too, and maybe a few others. And he fixed everything for us for years and years. He brought extra clothes with him on his annual fishing trips to Mexico with his good buddies and left all his clothes for the people who worked there. He was generous and kind. He would have done anything for anyone. I felt loved and protected. I always knew he was there for me. He celebrated every high moment with us and was there for the hard times. He was the most amazing grandfather to Flynn and Brody. He started collecting coins for the boys when I was pregnant. He filled a Sparklets bottle and continued to collect change over the years, but we all knew he brought dollars for change so that he could add to the collection. Enough so that he had enough to contribute to their first cars. He got a balloon arch when they were each born, as he had done for my law school graduation and wedding to Scott. He was there for their births, every single birthday, graduations, and frequent visits to Petaluma. He went to their soccer games, basketball games, flag football games. He bragged about them to anyone who would listen, brought their pictures to the dry cleaners, and loved them deeply. They loved him deeply. But most importantly, he loved my mom and she him. They were intertwined, connected. They merged from pretty different worlds. They were inseparable partners, even when they bantered. They hiked, traveled together, and with good friends. They took classes, they went to the theater, they went to museums. They had their traditions, the cabin, Big Sur, camping at Wishon, the Hanukkah party, the Super Bowl party, and any excuse for a party, with Wayne as the king of the decorations. They stayed with each other for every hospital visit. and he held my mom's feet for the dreaded MRI. I loved him for loving my mom and for protecting her and making her so happy. My heart breaks for her broken heart, but is full for the beautiful life they shared. Today we celebrate his life, the beautiful human and big presence that he was in all of our lives. With deepest love and gratitude, I'm so grateful he's now at peace.
And now his grandsons, Flynn and Brody, are going to come forward. Mike?
My grandpa meant the world to me and my brother. He was a big part of our childhood and never missed a big moment in our life. He had a loving, protective aura about him and made LA my favorite memories growing up. I specifically remember in elementary school writing about how my grandparents' house was my favorite place in the whole world, and Grandpa and also Grandma were the reason why. He always made us laugh, telling us crazy stories that we could barely believe. They were hilarious after the third time he told them. I'll never forget his acts of kindness to everyone he came in contact with. He had a way of connecting with people that was beautiful and inspiring to me. My grandpa loved us with all his heart and made sure we always knew it. One of many examples of this was how he'd mention us to anyone he talked to at any chance and brag to them how he had the best grandkids in the world. He always held a special place in my heart and a reminder of how to be a great person while also making the most of life.
Every year, I would count down the days until I got to see my grandparents. Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, camping, the cabin, those were the happiest times. Brody and I would wrestle our grandpa at every chance. He had an iron grip and his headlock was unbreakable. But beating us up wasn't all that he did. He always made us laugh and he told great stories. But most importantly, he loved us and he never forgot to tell us. He would look me in the eye and say, "I love you," and I could feel how much he meant it. My grandpa taught me lots, like how to love your family with all of your heart, how to brighten everyone's day, and how to make money from the car wash coin fountain. My grandpa meant the world to me, and I'll miss him and love him forever. Thank you.
And now a fellow professional from Lockheed, but also a fishing buddy, Bob Sladak. Please come forward. Please, let me adjust this for you. And into the microphone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bob Sladak, and when I heard about Wayne, it tore me out. I was coming home from a Mexican restaurant we ordered dinner from, and Jackie called me and said Wayne's gone. And it brought tears to my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. So I got home, we ate dinner, and I was feeling really bad. So I went in our computer room, my favorite room, and I brought out my fishing album. I have a big fishing album. I brought it with me. You can look at it. And I started looking through the pictures. And I saw all the good times. And the tears went away. I felt so good and so happy I knew that man. So BB asked me, would you feel comfortable talking about speaking? Who couldn't feel comfortable speaking about the greatest guy that ever lived? I loved that guy like a brother. Met him in 1970. I'd known him for 52 years. We had good times, never once had bad times. I was the charter master, got the trip up for the fishing. He looked forward to that so much. That was one of his highlights of his life. And he would always kid my wife go to my granddaughter Stephanie, because as Phoebe said, he had to have his bling. And you can see it. He wears it around his neck, and it's the most ugliest thing in the world. But he loved it. And it had a little fish at the end of it, and you'd pull its tail, and it would shake and rattle. And he would get on the deck, and he'd start dancing around because he wanted to bring the fish to the boat. And he even got the deckhands and the captains to do the same thing. And he would call, we would go to Cabo on a Tuesday. We would come home the following Monday. And it would probably be Tuesday or Wednesday. He would call my wife and ask her if she started on the bling to fix it up for the next year. And that's where that hat came from, too. They made that. So, Phoebe, I love you, and I love him, and I'm going to miss him forever. The greatest guy ever. And one word describes Wayne, and that's prankster. He was the greatest prankster in the world, and loved pulling jokes on people. Thank you.
Now I'd like to ask his friends, Gail and Ira Brodsky, to come forward.
Wayne Allen Shaw was. Only Wayne will never be a was. He'll always be in our hearts and our minds. When Ira and I first met Wayne, we thought, how different could Phoebe and Wayne be? But we quickly saw how the two were the perfect complement for each other. When I think of them, I could close my eyes and see them walking down the street holding hands. They were always holding hands. The four of us shared so many wonderful times together, from our first camping trip. What would we do without Wayne? He set up our tent. We were just so helpless. To all of the wonderful meals that Phoebe and Wayne made, and to give Wesley his first experience catching a fish. Who could ever forget that? We were fortunate to take so many trips with them: Paris, South Africa, London, Italy, Turkey, Greece, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And how could we ever forget having dinner in Vietnam, meeting a Dutch couple, and Wayne said, be careful when you tiptoe through the tulips. Holidays are for families, and Wayne and Phoebe are our family. They threw Hanukkah parties, where most of you have shared with us today. The house was always decorated to the nines, and he made sure all of the kids always had a present. His margaritas were outstanding, and what would the Super Bowl be without his trips to Langer's Deli for our annual pastrami? I will miss Phoebe. I have Phoebe. I will miss Wayne forever. I loved him. And Phoebe, we got you.
Like Phoebe and Jackie said, it's hard for me to do these kind of speeches. I get very emotional, and I apologize ahead of time for needing a moment to get control of my emotions. Thankfully, Gail has just shared a lot of the memories and events that we have felt were highlights of our life. Wonderful trips, wonderful events with Phoebe and Wayne. I go back, I guess now 30 plus years since they met, and I first got to meet Wayne. And given that everybody has been sharing all the different aspects of our lives together, I try to think about what I could say today that was a little more personal for me. Something personal and something special about our relationship. We all know what a great person Wayne was, a great husband, a great parent, a great grandparent, great friend, great fellow worker. And we know his skills, his artistic skills, the things he built, the things he made for the house. He was always there to help us fix things. Most people know I couldn't even nail anything to a wall, no less fix anything around the house. He was always there. When we did go camping, I had no idea how to set up a tent. He was always there to make sure that our tent was fairly level. One time I tried, I think we were about a 30-degree angle falling out of the tent. And fishing, although I was never much of a fishing person, when we did go fishing, he could bait my hooks for me because I had no idea what I was doing. So on top of that, we know that his traits, his characteristics, he was such a caring person, loyal to the core, and he had a great sense of humor. So what makes him special to me? I've been thinking about it for a while, and I realized what makes it special is both of us were still little boys. Yes, we had all our responsibilities of life, but at the end, we did all the stupid little things that boys do. That's the relationship that we had. Whether it was riding elephants in Cambodia or Laos, I forgot which one, with no saddles, 10 feet in the air, me in the front, and Wayne on one of the elephants behind me yelling at me to turn around so he could take a picture. While all I cared about was whether I could stay on that elephant. Or what about when we were in Africa? We were in an open Jeep. We came across a pond that had a bunch of alligators and a hippo at the far end. Wayne decided it was time for the two of us to jump out and run down to the pond, which of course we did, at which point Wayne started making faces and wiggling his ears at the hippo, who apparently didn't like it because he jumped up, and next thing we knew, he was trying to swim across the pond to chase us back to the Jeep, and we hightailed out of there. And of course, as Gail mentioned, the elephant poop story, where elephant poop looks something like a large shredded wheat. Wayne wrapped it in a towel. He decided to bring it home, take it to our doctor, Dr. Rich Walter, who's here somewhere, and show him, or ask him what kind of medication he gave us, because this was the poop that we had. That was Wayne, and those of you that know him know that's what he was. The other thing that we loved doing was driving Phoebe and Wayne crazy, Phoebe and Gail crazy, and he helped do a really good job of that, as you all can hear. I picture us when we were in Italy and the girls were out shopping at lunchtime. The two of us would just sit in a plaza, order pizza and beer, because we didn't trust any other food in these foreign countries, and we would sit there and look at tourists, make some off-color jokes, laugh, and have a good time until the girls got back. So my feeling, my deepest feeling is Wayne was my buddy. That's what little boys call their best friends, buddies. We're stupid, we're silly, we're nuts, but we always had fun. There's a sports term that some of you may know called a GOAT. A GOAT is the greatest of all time, and that's what Wayne was. He was a GOAT. I'll miss you forever, buddy. Thank you.
And our final speakers will be his friends Alan Brown and Barbara Hopton. Please come forward.
my name is Alan. This is my long-term girlfriend, Barbara, who worked with Phoebe at Taylor and Lieberman for many years. God, we've been going out almost 9 years, long time. Early in our relationship, Barbara says, "You gotta meet my very good friends, Wayne and Phoebe." She went on to say how much she loved them, and I said, of course. I had a little bit of trepidation meeting Wayne and Phoebe, in all honesty. But she made plans. We went up there that weekend and the next weekend, and we drove up to their home. We parked in their driveway. We got out of their car, and we walked up the path to their front door. And before we ever got up, the door flung open. And there they were standing there. My first thought was, my God, he's as big as a skyscraper. And she's so petite. At that time, I remember I liked Barbara, and I thought to myself, I don't want to screw this up. But from the moment we walked into their home, I felt love. I felt caring. And Phoebe, I hope you have always felt love from me, like I have always felt love from you. From there, we went on to have many dinners. Everybody has spoke about that they have gone to Big Sur, and we piggybacked many of their vacations in Big Sur. We would come up there and just invade them for a couple of days. We spent some time at Jackie and Scott's house when they were on vacation there. We had many dinners. We fought for the check. I occasionally won. We had lovely hikes. He showed me everything, all on the hikes we went. It was wonderful. He was a wonderful man. I will remember him with great love. His love for his family, his love for his grandkids. One weekend, God, I'm going back 4 or 5 years ago, he taught me how to make soap, multicolored soap. An entire weekend, I think, of him teaching me how to make multicolored soap. I'm not really a soap making type of guy. I'm more of a soap buying type of guy, but he spent hours with me teaching me how to make this multicolored soap, which I actually still have at home. This is a loss, obviously, for everybody in this room. It's definitely a loss for me. I loved meeting him. I loved hearing his stories, even the occasional story he might have told twice. He will be missed, and most definitely he will be thought about often. That for sure. Thank you.
So I comprised a list of lessons learned from Wayne's life, and I apologize for leaving elephant poop off of it. But this is my list of lessons learned, and I have a strange feeling you have many more that can be found in your hearts. But on my list, don't judge a book by its cover. Trust others even when trusting is difficult. Always hold hands with those you love. Kidding and joking and pranking opens the door to friendships most of the time. Enjoy eating everything except for fish. Throw parties as often as you can and make them big events. If you have to have a favorite restaurant, make it Eduardo's. Find a favorite vacation spot. His was Big Sur. And return as often as you can. If your partner bikes slower than you, I won't point at anyone. Never get too far ahead and always circle back to check on her. Enjoy the outdoors and camping and fishing and hiking and all of nature. Work hard and you'll move ahead professionally regardless of your level of education. When you think your love is as deep as it can be deeper. Protect those you love. Bring your sanitation workers snacks and baby gifts. Be a hero to as many people as you can. And love your family with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Our bodies are just shrouds, clothing for our souls. And like any piece of clothing, it wears thin, it gives out. But our souls can live on forever in the stories we tell and the memories we cherish. And even if the formal aspect of storytelling has ended during this service, it doesn't mean the storytelling has ended permanently. Whenever you think of a story that needs to be shared, you call up a family member, you call up Phoebe and say, I remember when, and you share that story. And after this service is concluded and you go into the reception hall and you sit at a table with people you do not know, you say, hi, I am. My relationship to Wayne was. This is how I knew him. How did you know him? It's our job as those who have come together to honor his memory to share his memory. And we should be sharing it this whole afternoon. As a conclusion to our eulogies, but not to our service, our cantor is going to sing Kadesho.
Didn't I tell you I loved you? Didn't I show you I cared? Didn't you know that you mattered? Wasn't it life that we shared? But time kept ticking. Our lives kept slipping. Now that our journey is over, somehow it doesn't seem fair. Now there's no one to talk with, no one to walk with and be with. Still everything seems to remind me as if you're behind me, still there. But time keeps ticking, our lives keep slipping. Now that this journey is over, somehow it doesn't seem fair. I can't hold the wind, I can't slow the ride, I can't stop the rivers from flowing. I can't hold the tears, I can't slow the ride, I can't stop the seasons from coming and going. I hope that I told you I loved you. I hope that I showed you I cared. I hope that you know that you matter. What a great life we did share. What a great journey we shared.
We open our books to page 29, where we find El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim is a prayer we say where we ask God to care for the soul of the deceased. And if we look at the Hebrew carefully, we'll see it says Ha-Shekhinah, the Shekhinah, the feminine presence of God. And within mystical Judaism, it's believed there are 10 different aspects to God's personality. And that aspect that relates, that deals with human beings, that gives us miracles and that gives us comfort is called the Shekhinah. It's that feminine presence that protects us. And we ask God, we ask this aspect of God to care for Wayne's soul as he moves forward. So I'm going to ask everyone to rise if you are able. And we are on page 29. We are going to read the English at the bottom of the page together, filling in the name Wayne when we get to the bottom. And then afterwards, cantorial soloist Joel will sing El Malay for us. Together we read in the bottom of 29. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant complete rest in your sheltering presence to Wayne, who has entered eternity. Master of motherly love, sheltered by your divine wings, may he be bound up in the bond of eternal life. The eternal God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. Amen.
Sochen baroni Hametze menucha nechona Tachat kanfei HaShekhinah Im kedoshim uteorim kezohar harakia Et nishmat chaim shalom ben Avraham v'Sara shehalach le'olamo. Bal harachamim yastirehu betzeter kenafav le'olami. V'yitzror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato ve'yanua b'shalom al mishkavo ve'nomar
We turn to page 43. In some books, it might be page 45 for the mourner's Kaddish. While we've been mentioning Wayne on Friday nights and saying the Kaddish for him, this memorial service actually marks the first official time we say the Kaddish with him in our hearts and our thoughts. For every new generation, there is one which ends, but they are never totally gone. They leave their memories and their influence on everything we do. How many things do we do because our great-grandparents did them, and our grandparents and our parents? If we forget them, we lose part of ourselves. So we must remember them and honor them each day. This way we are united with our ancestors and with generations to come. Our heritage dictates a unique community which spans all ages. This afternoon, we remember Wayne Shaw. We are on page 43. Let us recite together. Yitgadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agalav zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'rechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the one who makes peace on high grant peace to all who mourn, to all Israel, and to all humankind. And together we say, please put your books down. We're now going to sing Oseh Shalom. If you can put your arms around the people next to you, if you know them. If you don't know them, ask permission first. Oseh Shalom is a song of peace. And we would like peace for Wayne's soul, peace for those who grieve, and we just need peace generally in this world. After we sing Oseh Shalom, there is a reception. Please do not greet the family in here. Greet them at the reception, because people might want to sit in here a few more minutes, just quietly looking at the picture. So please do your comforting, your grieving, your hugging in the next room. Let people who like to sit here a few more minutes sit in quiet. All right. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom b'mromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru. Imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru. Shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Hamakom yinachem etchem b'tok sha'ar avelei Sion v'Yerushalayim. May God console all who mourn with those who mourn in the midst of the gates of Zion and Jerusalem. Our service is now complete. You are welcome to take your books with you. They are filled with memories, poems by congregants, and their feelings when they've lost someone. There is a gathering, and if you could please keep the volume down for people who might want to sit for a few more minutes. and look at the picture of Wayne and reflect on his life, please allow them to do that, and then give your hugs and your moments of comfort